Hey, it's Adam, and today we're going to be talking about how to navigate media effectively, in particular, social media. So, this is going to be a masterclass on how to optimize social media for your personal use. Before we start bashing the hell out of social media, let's talk a little bit about the positive uses of social media. So, some positive uses are reaching out to people. You're able to reach out to people. You could plan something with them and meet new people, which is amazing. Find communities that about things that you are passionate about. You could plan meetups. Again, that's probably the best use of social media that I can think of. Actually using it to meet up with people in person. Building a personal brand. Maybe you are trying to become an influencer. Maybe you're trying to build your brand. Maybe you're trying to present a nice image of yourself for the job that you're taking. So doing all of those things, building up a nice Instagram profile, a nice LinkedIn profile will all help with that, or even building a nice social life. You want to look like you're a cool guy or cool girl. So that can all help. And of course, if you're doing it job-wise, you want to look professional, look like you have experience, all that stuff. So it's kind of getting that effect of that first impression that you know what you're doing, you're a qualified person. Now, you can also sell a product or a service. You see ads on social media. I think that's a perfect use of ads to actually, you have people coming in and then you try to sell them the products that they want. And creating content. So that's, again, probably, I said planning meetups is probably the best use, but I'd say, again, creating content. That's what the platform is for. That's its fuel. That's the content. So if you're going to be making little short videos, little TikTok reels, you're going to be making posts with some text at the bottom, doing some stories. It's all creating content and trying to give value to people. And finding people to learn from. This is a big one. So if you don't know anything about a certain subject, it's really easy. You can find the top person on Instagram. You could even find people who review books and talk about why this book is amazing, that book is amazing. And then then you have suggestions for books to read instead of kind of just not knowing what to do. So finding the best people in their field, just finding people to learn from and kind of looking at their content, being like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And then taking the next steps, finding their YouTube channel, like listening to some of their videos and looking at if they have any courses or any other way or books that you could learn from them, or even private coaching. So let's talk a little bit about media literacy. The news can brainwash people, and you can see how the media portrays this in politics and advertisements and all these other topics around us. And the news primarily feeds on fear and anger. So you see how all these kind of emotions are pushed on us, and all these influences, these ways, these ideas that are conveyed to us through advertising, wanting you to become a consumer, and all these different things that are kind of pushed on you, and maybe certain agendas, certain ideals, if you can think about that. And social media can also trap us into little feedback loops of information that we personally seek, right? Naturally, people want to see ideas that they agree with. So if we're trapped in these echo chambers of our own opinion, that's a big trendy word right now, our bearings on the world can be skewed by this. So, for example, a particular ideology, let's call them Group X, may be the source of all the major issues. But another group may see Group Y as the problem. So, you see, it's kind of like, oh no, these people are doing it. No, these people are wrong. It's like, also you're blaming other people, and it's like, oh no, you're the problem. But, maybe it's really just trapping you into like a me versus them, kind of a very competitive kind of frame. And movies and televisions have this kind of good versus evil, us versus them, got to get the bad guy. And think of any superhero movie, right? There's always the good guy, the bad guy. The bad guy's bad because he's bad, and the good guy's good because he's good. Crime movies, either they'll play the role of the police, like, oh, I'm going to catch the bad guy finally, or they'll glorify the criminal and make him the good guy of the story and make the cops the bad guys. Or even family-oriented stories with kids and parents and that kind of, they're fighting. Even like Fresh Prince, right? It's like the parents versus the kids. Or even situations at work or with the boss versus employee or student versus teacher. You see that in Office Space, maybe Fight Club too. You see him at odds with his boss. And some kid stuff, probably School of Rock. You see it's like student versus teacher. And this all affects how you think, right? You spend all this time consuming this content. Of course it's going to have an effect on you. Of course. So we're going to talk a little bit now about how they steal away your attention. How they just take it. They just grab it away from you. Notifications. Have you heard of Pavlov's dog? So there was a scientist. He had some juicy steaks, and he rang the bell, and his dogs would come and gave him the steaks. And this was a time where I believe meat was not very common, so it was a little bit expensive, hard to get. So of course these dogs were like, they're salivating over it. He did it again a couple times, and then one day he just rang the bell, and the dogs already started salivating because they linked the ringing of the bell associated to the meat before the meat was associated with, having an enjoyable eating experience for the dog. But now it's linked to the bell. So you see how that neurological pathway was formed. And that's kind of amazing. That's like a neurogenesis, like new neural pathways getting formed. It's kind of interesting. The same way, your notifications can hook you and get you wanting that like or that comment, or, oh, look, someone's interacting with me, that feeling of social validation. And you see the notification and it wires you to check it because you associate it with the dopamine that you might get when someone messages you or when someone likes your post or interacts with your post. So think about how that affects you. Are you kind of the dog going for, kind of chasing the squirrel that you never quite get, that dopamine hit that is never enough, you just want more? Social pressure, that's another one. People are sheep. There's this amazing video, maybe I'll edit it in here. Is a room full of people, and this one guy, there's a beep that goes off every minute or so, and the guy, he just stands up when the beep goes off and sits back down. And everyone was wondering, and what happened was the room was empty, and they slowly trickled in people, and everyone started to copy him, and they removed everyone slowly from that room and let new people in, and the phenomena of standing and sitting down, it just continued. So see how this one random guy, of course it was part of the test and they were recording it, but so one random guy just started standing up when it just went beep, and then he just stood up, and everybody just copied him. Why? No reason at all. They're just sheep. So you're going to be subject to social pressure as much as you think you might be not affected by the people around you or not affected by social pressure. Think about social anxiety, right? You're thinking, what are these people going to think of me? Of course, that's a human thing, right? There's actually this normal person archetype where it's the archetype of just this normal person wanting to fit into society, trying to figure out, what their role is, what their purpose is, how do they fit into this society. So this social pressure will pressure you to engage and be on this social platform. You don't want to miss out, right? FOMO, you don't want to be you don't want to miss out. Again, targeted media and ads, another way they grab your attention. These niches that are catered to you they'll track your data and suggest ads of things that you might like. You've probably had the experience where you're talking about something and then you see an ad about it later, or you search up something on Amazon and then you see it on your Instagram. Like, what? So, weird things like that happen. And just know that, they're going to target you with the ads that you like. Novel stimulus. They trap you with novel stimulus. We like new things. That's something that gives us dopamine. So if you try a new thing, you go and learn to play a new sport. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. You're going to get dopamine from doing it. The same way, if you have some new content and it comes up in front of you, that's going to be dopamine. And with that, you add that with the gamification of social media, where it's like a casino. You scroll and you don't know what you're going to get. Might be a good post that you like, might not be, that one that hits the spot, that meme that makes you chuckle a little bit. And maybe they'll put an ad in between, right? So it's this like, oh, am I going to get it? Am I not? It's much more exciting. There's studies done with rats, and if I think it was cocaine water. I'm just getting this off the top of my head, so I'm not sure if it was cocaine water, but some sort of drug. The rat drank it, and if it was consistently given, the rat would just be like, okay, and live its life, have a sip when it wants. But when it was like, oh, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, the rat would just go for it until it freaking died. So, yeah, that's how we work in a gamified scenario like a casino. And it also rewards the time spent. So whenever you invest your time into something, you want to do it more, right? Let's say you start playing basketball every day. You're going to have to get better and better to get that same hit of dopamine. And that will allow you to get better and build that skill. That's in a positive way. This is in a negative way. You could, the more time you spend on social media, the more investment you get with it. And the harder it is to stop doing it, because you need more scrolling, more time on it to get the same dopamine hit that you would usually. So this will make people very, very addicted to it, and it actually it has to do with the dopamine, and it will change your brain's it'll really change your brain to actually want to be on social media more. So that is rewarding time spent with investment. Now, building bad habits into addictions, it neurologically rewires your brain to turn these bad habits that will slowly add up over time and really get ingrained in you, and it'll start to become an addiction, this thing that runs you. And that's quite scary because of all of these factors. It is highly addictive. They've created this. If you listen to some of the creators of this, it's optimized. These apps with split testing, they'll do A/B testing, see which one does better, and then which one captures more of your attention, and then use that one, and they'll keep doing that. Run millions of split tests. And it's all to get you to spend more time so you can see more ads, and advertisers will pay them more. So, after this criticism, I'd like you to ask yourself a couple questions. How are you complicit in the system? which is a great question to ask yourself whenever you critique a system. How are you complicit? Take some time, write it down. How are you complicit in the system? Maybe you spend time on it. Maybe you're more of a consumer than a producer. Maybe you engage with content that you don't necessarily love a lot. Do you want to see the negative news? Do you want to see those negative things that you may be drawn to? Are you drawn to it more than positive news? Right? Because if you're creating demand for something, they're going to supply it. Do you watch the negative news? Right? Are you watching it? And are you creating demand for it? The average human attention span is 8 seconds. 8 seconds. That is less than a goldfish's attention span. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? You have an attention span less than a goldfish's. Nicholas Carr wrote this amazing book called The Shallows about how the internet is influencing your brain. And he had some amazing ideas around this that I'd like to share with you. He talked about how media aren't just channels of information, they supply thought, and what the net seems to be doing is chipping away his capacity for concentration and contemplation. Whether he's online or not, his mind expects to take in the information the way that the net distributes it. So that is similar to a swiftly moving stream of particles. And he likes this analogy of the shallows. When he was a scuba diver in the sea of words, right? Really going deep, thinking about things. But things have become more shallow. Now he zips along the surface of information like a jet ski. So we have got access to all this information, right? It has its width and its depth, but we seem to only be skimming across the surface when there's all this depth that we could explore. And the faster we surf across the surface of this web, the more links we click, the more pages we view, the more opportunity Google gains to collect information about us and feed us advertisements. So every click we make on the web is a disruption. It's a disruption of our attention, and it's in Google's economic interest, as I talked about before, to get us to click as often as possible. And finally, in a more social understanding, we want to be interrupted because each interruption brings us a valuable piece of information, seemingly valuable. To turn off these alerts and notifications is to risk feeling out of touch or even socially isolated, which the situation we're in right now has heightened that. And you long for that sense of connection. It's human nature. So we're going to move on to tips for conscious phone use and social media consumption, because this is the game changer. Even if you threw out everything that I said before in this presentation, I'd like you to write down these 6 points that I'm going to talk about right now, because these are the actual action items you can take to set yourself free from being this slave of social media. Okay. Number 1, critical thinking. Look at different perspectives and make up your own mind. So don't get trapped in these echo chambers, right? Look at both sides, understand them both, and then make the choice that's yours. Understanding, sales, for example, from the buyer side and the consumer side, or look at politics, for example, from the left side and the right side, or even the green side and the blue side, or whatever. There's a million different ways you can look at politics, actually. consume consciously. So be aware of all the media that you take in throughout the day and how it affects you. Are you watching some YouTube videos in your free time when you're eating? Are you checking your phone in the middle of class or when you're studying or during work? So think about those things and how does that affect you? How does that affect your brain? How does that affect how you think? How does that affect your beliefs and your perceptions on the world? Is it dumbing you down or making you smarter? Is it making you more addicted or is it freeing you a little bit? So conscious consumption is so important, right? You're not a slave, right? If you can choose to go, okay, I'd like to go on social media for 5 minutes. I'd like to check my messages and see if any of my friends have messaged me since my notifications are off, right? And I'm also going to check my friends' stories to see what they're up to, right? For 5 minutes or for 15 minutes, right? Set a timer and do it consciously. Or I'm going to go on social media to check out what this influencer is talking about. He's talking about self-help, or is talking about programming because I want to get into programming, or is talking about cooking because I like cooking. Intentional social media use. Oh, I want to open up my social media so I can, make a post for my story to create content. I want to take a picture and write a caption, make a post. These are all intentional. It's not, oh, I feel bad. Oh, I gotta go on it. Oh, please, let me feel better. That's unconscious. You want to be conscious. You also want to reduce consumption. So, similar to eating food, you can change the type of food that you eat, and you can also choose, what you're eating. And then there can also be reduce the amount of food, so reduce the consumption. Lower the amount of time that you spend on social media and watching things in a derpy state. In a derpy state where it's like, the light goes out of your eyes. You're just scrolling, and you know it's wrong, and you're trying to feel good, and you kind of hate yourself for doing that. Or you're just trying to seek the next hit, trying to escape something. That's not where you want to be. Trust me. I've been there. You don't want to be there. Another thing you can do. Number 4, set boundaries. How can you set boundaries? Again, a time limit. Having a time limit. And since we're such petty creatures and we tend to fall off things, why not use an extension on your phone to guarantee that you won't be breaking these rules? Make it easy for yourself, right? We're just dumb humans. Just make it easy for yourself. Use extensions and apps to set boundaries for what you will accept into your life. So there's apps like Stay Focused, but I'm pretty sure most of the newer phones will have built-in screen time apps on them that will allow you to block apps. What I suggest is have a daily limit. So say I only want to use social media half an hour a day, an hour a day, 15 minutes a day, depends on what you want to do. And also, a very powerful one is blocking social media from before 9 a.m. and after 9 p.m. Now, you can adjust the times, but that's what I did personally. And that just makes sure that you're not on social media first thing in the morning and when you're going to bed. Those are 2 times that you're pretty vulnerable. Right? If you're in your bed and you can just scrolling and it's like, the warm blanket and, let me just 5 more minutes, it turns into an hour, 2 hours, who knows? And when you're going to bed, that's another time where you're probably subject to doing stupid things when you're tired at night. So just go to bed. Just freaking go to bed. Another thing you could do is practicing focus. That's number 5. Do deep work. Get into a flow state. Really get immersed in what you're doing. Have real focus. And take away distraction when you are doing this kind of work so you can build up your concentration skills. How do you get better at something? practice, right? Invest yourself into focusing. Read a book. Maybe even watch a long movie. That requires attention. It's not something changing every second. Like watch a Stanley Kubrick movie. That's a good one, actually. He makes some long movies. And once you're able to practice this focus, your attention span will increase. You can actually change it. It's not something set in stone. You just need to stop engaging with this. It'll hurt a little bit. It'll hurt a lot, actually. Maybe not a lot. It'll hurt a little bit. But it'll feel like it's a lot. But you'll learn that on the other side, it's just so much better. It's just having that attention, being able to function at a high level will be so much more worth it than looking at some shitty memes. Honestly. And produce. Number 6, the final one. Make, create, do something that requires you doing work. Writing, painting, cooking, editing, programming, telling stories, playing sports. All these things, making art. All these things require you being a producer versus a consumer. We're going to talk about that a little bit as well. But just to expand on setting boundaries, what you can do is set time limits on how much you spend on an app or engage with a certain kind of content. You could create a window where you're allowed to use social media. Like I said, a certain time in the morning, like 9, you're not allowed to go on it before 9 in the morning, and then not after 9 at night. And take a break. Just take a straight break from social media to allow yourself to recalibrate and reset and stop your reliance on it, that addiction, that need for it. And set these limits with your goals in mind. And remember what you're working towards and what you need in order to function at a high level for. Some software I personally like to use is Notion, just to organize everything. It's an all-in-one workspace. And stay focused. A decluttered launcher, that's a cool one. On my phone, I can show you right now. When I open it, it's just 4 home apps. And I can scroll up and I can select all my apps. It's very efficient. And once you get used to this, it's actually faster than all these colors and all these apps. So first of all, it's efficient. Second of all, what you're going to end up having is you're not going to be tempted by all these things. You can just pick exactly what you want. I have the apps that I know that I need on the front, and then everything else I can access very easily. Another great one is distraction-free YouTube, or DF YouTube. There's a separate one for Mac. I'll leave the name. I'll edit it in. But this restricts things on YouTube and really makes it so you don't have a home page, you don't have a feed, you kind of just have, and you can toggle around. You can pick what you want. You could hide the sidebar, you could hide the comments, you could hide the little merch notes, you could hide, yes, I said comments, and this can allow you to have a better YouTube experience. This will allow you to not be subject to this algorithm that's, giving you infinite videos to watch. You can carefully choose what you want to do. Look, okay, I want to see this YouTube channel, want to watch a video on filmmaking because that's what I'm working on, and, do that. Instead of being, at the effect, being proactive. That's what I'm really trying to get across right now, being proactive versus being in reaction mode. And finally, something really cool is Momentum, which is a nice Chrome extension, which allows you to, it just gives you a nice homepage with a nice quote, nice background, and asks you what your daily task is. And using this extension is good just to remind you what you need to do, and it's also just very pleasing. I think Brave also has a similar feature, just built into it, Brave browser, which is what I use. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about producing versus consuming. So producing is giving. It's creation. It's active versus reactive, and it's giving compared to taking. It's creation versus appreciation. Right? It's active versus passive. It's from the self compared to something coming from outside yourself, and it lasts forever because you made it. And consuming only lasts for a period of time, the period of time that you consumed it for. So keeping this in mind, you want to have, of course, a balance of producing and consuming, but oftentimes you want to produce more than you consume because it's better to give than it is to take. So think about how you can give, how you can make a difference in the world. And with that, that's my masterclass on social media use, really optimizing your phone, being media literate, and knowing what to do. So I hope you found value from this video. And if you did, I'd encourage you to hop on a coaching call with me and we can talk about what areas that you're really needing some work on right now, what steps to take moving forward, and to really living that epic life. This is just a little taste of what I have to offer. And I'd love for you to, get engaged, take action. And just, even if you're thinking about it, just book a free call. You can get clarification or ask questions personally to me, and I'd be happy to answer them. And we can see, and I just love to see how I could help you personally. And if you are interested, I can see if working with me would be the right step for you. And if you are a good fit for my program, then I'd be happy to help you. But if not, then you get the free call, which is pretty awesome. And it's basically private coaching for free. So I would highly suggest, people really like it. So I hope you do too. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.